Welcome to lesson 54 of our interactive notes. And lesson 54, compare decimals by using visual models and reason. So we're going to turn to pages 57 and 58. So here we have our content objective, 4.NF, so 4th grade, numbers, operations, fractions, C7. I can compare two decimals to hundredths by reasoning about their size. Language objective, I can use vocabulary related to decimals to compare decimals. Social objective, I can work with others to create models to prove comparisons of decimals. You will want to have your highlighter or maybe a crayon or a light colored pencil, or just a regular pencil, but something light for shading in. Alright, just a reminder, don't forget we can only compare decimals when we are talking about the same whole. Which one would you want 1/10 of? Would you want 1/10 of a king size Hershey bar, or 1/10 of this little fun size Hershey bar? That 1/10 is not the same because these whole candy bars are not the same. So we have to be comparing the same whole units. Alright, so here we're going to be looking first at this number line. We have some decimals here, and we have to find where they go on the number line. So first we need a number that is between 0 and 1/10. So it has to be in the hundreds. This one is 72 hundredths. That would be more than 10 hundredths. This would be, let's see, 5/10. That is more than 1/10. 43 hundredths, more than 5 hundredths. This is a candidate. 9/10, no, that's still more. 17 hundredths, that's more than 1/10. 65 hundredths, that's more. So this one would fit in right about here. Now these numbers below are not equivalent. This would be if you were going from 0 to 1/10. That's how you would number the line. So that would be representing this part right here. Just showing that if you want to look at hundredths, you can stretch it out, because this is a very small place to try to fit in 10 of them. So you can expand it if need be to be able to look at it. But we're looking at these top numbers. Okay, now between 1/10 and 1/20th, I'm sorry, yeah, 1/10 and 2/10. I don't know why I said 1/20th. What number would go in between those? Well, this could also be seen as 10 hundredths, 20 hundredths, 30 hundredths, 40 hundredths, 50 hundredths, 60 hundredths, 70 hundredths, 80 hundredths, 90 hundredths, 100 hundredths. So what number goes between 10 and 20 hundredths? Well, that would be 17 hundredths. So that goes here. 17's between 10 and 20. Okay, I'm going to cross them out once I use them. Okay, between 4/10 and 5/10, or 40 hundredths and 50 hundredths. Let's see, between 40 and 50, that would be 43 hundredths. Exactly 50 hundredths, or 5/10, would be 5/10. Between 6/10 and 7/10, or 60 hundredths and 70 hundredths, would be 65 hundredths. between 7/10 and 8/10, or 70 hundredths and 80 hundredths, would be 72 hundredths. And exactly on 9/10 or 90 hundredths is 9/10. So going from 0 to 1, as we go toward the right, the numbers get greater. So now we can answer these questions based on these numbers in these boxes. Which of these decimals is the largest? 0.9 is the largest. This would be like 90 cents, 5 cents, 17 cents, 43 cents, 50 cents, 65 cents, 72 cents, 90 cents. That would be the largest amount. Which of these is the smallest? Well, the one furthest to the left is our smallest, or our least. And that would be 5 hundredths, or 5 cents, is the smallest. Which one is exactly, which decimal above is equal to 1/2? Where is exactly halfway? Exactly halfway would be right here. So that would be 5/10 is equal to 1/2. So using a number line and putting in order from least to greatest is one way to be able to compare. Another one is looking at our benchmark. Which of these is less than 5/10, or we could look at it as 50 hundredths. 5 dimes is the same as 50 pennies. And which ones are greater? So we're going to put these in the places they go. So we can look at them to the hundredths so that we're comparing the same amount. So I think the only one that wasn't to the hundredths was the 9/10. So 43 hundredths. Is 43 less than 50 or greater than 50? 43 is less than 50, so that would go in this section. 9/10 or 90 hundredths. Is 9/10 less than 5/10 or greater than 5/10? It is greater, so I'll go over here. I'll leave it as 9/10, but using it as hundredths can be helpful too in comparing. 7 hundredths, is that less than 50 hundredths or greater than 50 hundredths? It's less than 50 hundredths, so that would go over in this section. 62 hundredths, is that less than 50 hundredths or greater than 50 hundredths? It is 62 is greater than 50. 22 hundredths, is that less than 50 hundredths or greater than 50 hundredths? 22 is less than 50. Now see, if we left it as 5/10 instead of having the hundredths version, you may have thought that 22 is greater than 5. But 2/10 and 2 hundredths is not greater than 5/10. This is 50 cents. This is 22 cents. So it's good to have the same place. So we have two places here to help when we are looking at two places there. 8 hundredths, is that less than 50 hundredths or greater than 50 hundredths? It is less than 50 hundredths. 81 hundredths, is that less than 50 hundredths or greater than 50 hundredths? Well, 81 is greater than 50. 5 hundredths, is 5 hundredths greater than 50 hundredths? I'm sorry, less than 50 hundredths or greater than 50 hundredths? 5 is less than 50. Now if you just look at the digit 5 and not the place value, you might think they're the same. So that's why it's good to have up to the hundredths on here, because 5/10 and 5/100 are not the same. 74 hundredths, is that less than 50 hundredths or greater than 50 hundredths? 74 is greater than 50. 95 hundredths, is that less than 50 hundredths or greater than 50 hundredths? 95 is greater than 50. 15 hundredths, is that less than 50 hundredths or greater than 50 hundredths? 15 is less than 50. And 29 hundredths, is that less than 50 hundredths or greater than 50 hundredths? 29 is less than 50. So if you look at that compared to 1/2 or 5/10, 50 hundredths, it can also help you with comparison. If you know one of them's less than 50 and the other one's greater than 50, that can help you with comparing also. Okay, so here, this is where we're going to need our highlighter. So we're going to use a visual model to help us. First, we need to represent 48 hundredths, or 4/10 and 84. So 4/10 and 8 hundredths. 84 hundredths is 8/10. So 8 columns. And 1, 2, 3, 4 hundredths. So looking at the amount shaded, is 48, is this area greater than this area, less than, or equal to? Well, this has a lot more white area open than this one. So this area is less than this one. So 48 hundredths is less than 84 hundredths. And another way to look at it is if you line them up, you see that 4/10 is less than 8/10. So that's another way to look at it. Next one, we're looking at 9 hundredths. And 1/10. Okay, so here you might think that 9 is greater than 1, but we're looking all the way to the hundredths, so let's put this one all the way to the hundredths. We're looking at 9 hundredths and 10 hundredths. So if I line them up, I line up my decimals, my tenths, and my hundredths, it's easier to see. This has one more shaded in than this one. So don't let the digit fool you, because if it's in a different place, this is in the pennies place or the hundredths place, this is in the dimes place or the tenths place. 10 pennies is greater than 9 pennies. 10 hundredths is greater than 9 hundredths. So 9 hundredths is less than 1/10. Here we have 47 hundredths, so 4/10. And 7 hundredths, 1/10, and 8 hundredths. Well, 47 is a larger area shaded in than 18. So 47 hundredths is greater than 18 hundredths. And if we line up our place values, we can see that 4/10 is greater than 1/10. Okay, and then here we have 3/10. So 3 columns. We can also see that as 30 hundredths. And this one is 26. So 2/10 for 2 columns and 6 hundredths. So it's not much more, but this does have 4 more hundredths filled in. So 3/10 or 30 hundredths is greater than 26 hundredths. You might think that 3 is less than 26. That's where you have to be careful of place value. 3/10 is 30 hundredths. If you line it up, you see, line up those decimals and those tenths, that 3/10 is greater than 2/10. Okay, so now we're going to look at these numbers here. I'm going to go from least to greatest. Now it's helpful we have these go to the hundredths. We're going to make all of these go to the hundredths by putting our placeholder, because then it's easier to see to compare. I am supposed to have least on the top and greatest on the bottom. Well, I'm going to start from the bottom up, because I'm going to look which one of these has a whole number. Only these two have a whole number. So this would be like $1 each. Next we look at the tenths. Which one has more? This one has 9/10, this one has 0/10. So this would be like $1.09, $1.90. So $1.90 or 1 9/10, that is our greatest. And next then would be 1 9/100. So $1.90 is going to be greater than $1.09. Now we're looking at just the cents part, or like the change. So next we look at just the tenths. We have 8/10, 4/10, 7/10. 8 is greater than 4 and 7, so 86 hundredths is the next one. Okay, then we look between 4/10 and 7/10. 7/10 is greater. And then that leaves 4/10 as the least. Now you may have thought this was greater because you may have seen that as a 109, but that's why you got to practicing this as 1 whole and 9 hundredths. 1 whole and 9/10 is the same as 90 hundredths. All right, let's go ahead and practice some more with our 3-column notes.